A federal judge on Friday paused the Trump administration's midnight deadline to cut USAID's workforce by thousands of employees. Judge Carl Nichols, a 2019 Trump appointee, issued a restraining order pausing the administrative leave of more than 2,000 agency employees, along with a plan to withdraw nearly all of its overseas workers within 30 days. He also ordered a temporary reinstatement of 500 agency employees already on leave. The reaction from the right to the ruling was swift, including from the vice president himself. J.D. Vance, writing on social media, quote, "Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power." Joining us now, Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. She serves on the Judiciary and Rules Committee. Senator, very good to have you on board. Would you like to react to the vice president's tweet?
You know, he knows better. There are three equal branches of government in this country, and it is clear that the judges have started stepping in, as you could say. And I just look at this as we lead this fight. We lead it through the courts, we lead it with the Congress, and we lead it with our constituents by our side. And yes, some of these completely unconstitutional things that they have attempted have been stopped, including by a Trump-appointed judge. The freeze was stopped, at least temporarily, as it moves forward. Elon Musk getting access to people's private data, Social Security numbers, was stopped. And our job right now, with the state AGs, the Democratic attorney generals, the Democratic governors across the country, is to lead this fight. But it was unbelievable to me that just on Friday we find out they're going to actually start cutting the funding on cancer trials. I don't think it gets more mean-spirited than this. And you ask why they're doing it? Well, they're about to launch their case to literally give over $2 trillion in tax breaks to the wealthiest. I'm not talking here about the middle-class tax cuts. I'm talking about the ones for the wealthiest. So they're looking for money anywhere they can find it, whether it be Head Start or cancer trials.
It is so shocking when you look at, funding for cancer research, funding for other research that the NIH has done remarkable work through the years, even as a small government conservative that worked with other small government conservatives, balancing the budget 40 years in a row. We still understood there were some programs that were absolutely vital, and that includes many of these programs. I am curious. You have worked with J.D. Vance, but you also work with Mike Lee, a man who I've known for quite some time, and in years past, we talked a good bit and had a good relationship with him. You said that J.D. Vance knows better. Well, Mike Lee knows better. He was tweeting, I think, about a judicial coup, when he knows, just like you know, just like I know, just like now our viewers know, that this happens in every presidency. Last hour, we went through numerous Joe Biden executive orders that were enjoined, that were stopped by district court judges across America. It happens, and nobody then called it a judicial coup.
I just keep, when I step back and look at this, I think, what would Mike Lee be saying if some major Democratic donor, wealthy person came in and just started mucking around in people's data? He is doing this. Elon Musk is doing this at the behest of the President of the United States. And so many of these things are illegal. Here's what's weird about this. They control both houses of Congress and the presidency. And Mike Lee well knows that if they want to do this right, there is a way. They can go in, they can decide, even though this cancer research is going on in red states and blue states and purple states, they can go in and cut that from the budget. I don't think they'll want to do that because they understand that every dollar they put in NIH brings out $2 in economic activity. But as you note, they can do this the right way, and they can pass a budget, and they can give their tax cuts to the wealthy if that's what they want, and we will do everything to fight it and to make the case to our constituents and to the American people. But why they have to pretend that this is a coup when the courts have every right to enforce the law? At that inauguration, I made that point. We have that inauguration in the Capitol for a reason, not at a presidential palace like they do in some countries. And we have the Supreme Court there for a reason, because it is a clear message to America that we have three equal branches of government in this country. They are messing around with this, and both Mike Lee and J.D. Vance are students of the Constitution, and they know it's wrong. But again, they are doing this at the behest of one Donald Trump. And it's our job in Congress to stand up to it.
So, Senator, I was wondering what you're hearing from voters in Minnesota, because it's interesting to see the opinion polls since Donald Trump has been inaugurated. The fact that he has an approval rating higher than he ever had during his first term in office. The polls suggesting that actually the American people like what they're seeing from Elon Musk and Doge. What are you hearing from Minnesotans, and what do you think it would take to happen here in Washington for people in Minnesota to become concerned about some of the changes that are taking place in their federal government?
Well, every day when I wake up, I think, have costs gone down? Look at egg prices. They have not gone down. This is a big reason why Americans voted for Donald Trump. They wanted change. They were tired of the status quo. And we're ready to work with them on things like bringing housing costs down or child care costs down or doing something about health care. But instead, what we're seeing is chaos. And so what I'm starting to hear from my constituents, especially when they start to think, oh, this is, my niece, I got one yesterday, my niece, she has 3 kids, and she's barely holding in there because of a cancer trial that's improving her condition, and she doesn't know if that's going to continue anymore. Or someone not knowing if they can bring their kids to child care. That's what's happening right now. And I don't think you can expect that people are going to say overnight, well, what's going on here? But I do think what you see is that there has never been this many calls to our office. It broke the phone lines, emails coming in all the time, and that's what's starting to stir the hearts of Americans. They want to change. They wanted to bring costs down. That's not what's happening right now. It is pure chaos.
Well, I wonder, though, I mean, you've answered part of this question. Your phones are ringing off the hook. But 2 things here. When will the consequences of this really become clear to the American people, to the point where they see something is going wrong? That's number one, because so far I've heard the only recourse is marching. And I don't necessarily think that ends well. Who knows?
I don't actually.
What? Go ahead.
I actually think that there's 3 parts of this. One is courts, one is Congress, and one is our constituents. And these cases are brought by Democratic attorney generals and others throughout our country, and they're based on what Joe was bringing up early. They're based on the Constitution and what our founding fathers set forth as our form of government. This is not a dictatorship. And there's ways for him to work on the budget, work on reform, bring government efficiency than what they're doing. Secondly, you've got oversight in Congress. You've got these hearings where we're getting them on the record. And our constituents, yeah, they're calling. That's important. But I keep telling them, send us emails. Those emails actually are part of the record. If they're consenting to allow us to tell their stories, it's part of the record that people, the AGs are bringing cases. And they're
Senator,
showing this is the harm that real people are feeling. It's not just marching. It's actually a strategy. Go ahead.
I hear you, but we're potentially dealing with, according so far to what we've seen. And by the way, I'm not opposed to thinking it might be trolling, but we have to consider, if the courts make a ruling and the administration decides to run over the courts, what then? What can Congress do? You say it's our job in Congress to stand up to it.
There's 2 major functions here. One is the oversight of what they're doing, right? And one of the things that we haven't even talked about is that our Republican colleagues have been acquiescing in all of this. I know this. I've seen a few of them stand up from time to time. Maybe they'll stand up to cancer trials being cut. Watch for it. Maybe they'll stand up to Kash Patel, which they sure better do, as this man who has shown no regard for the truth is about to become head of the FBI unless they stand up for it. But they have to stand up to her to make this really work. Then you have oversight, and you can also pass legislation to make very clear what the limits are on this power. But that being said, I still believe the courts have power. I still believe if this comes up through the court system, you can already see the effects. They stop the freeze on the funds. They stop them from getting the Treasury data. They would be personally liable in points for violating these laws. And so I don't care what intern that, he brings in, that Elon Musk brings in, or someone that doesn't even have the necessarily security clearances. At some point, they are responsible for what they do. So I will not concede that what the courts say doesn't matter. I think it does matter.
Well, and as you said, what the United States Senate does and the House does matter. Congressional oversight matters. All of this matters more than a handful of tweets. We will wait and see what happens next. But Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. And